the Sam Tavarez podcast, talking sports, movies, and everything else you could possibly imagine. And now, here's Sam doing his Sam things.
And a special good afternoon. Hope you're having a wonderful last day of 2020. Well, at least it's the last day of 2020 for me because I'm recording this exactly on December 31st, 2020. Finally, finally, the year of hell is over. Finally, we get to look forward to 2021, a year that I for sure am hoping will be a much, much better year than what this was. This was absolute hell, not just for me, but for all of us. And I can speak for everyone who's listening. Thank God 2020 is over, and thank God 2021 is right around the corner. Literally, literally. But anyway, I hope you all are having a wonderful day. If you're listening to this on whatever day, I hope you're having an awesome day. And I hope that I could bring you some joy for the next 35, 40 minutes. Thank you to all those who listened to episode 4, in which I talked about the Blake Snell trade, the trade between the Tampa Bay Rays and the San Diego Padres. I was a little bit adamant about it, but hey, what can I say? I love baseball, and it's always fun when you can talk about sports, especially in a year that has been so odd and difficult for all of us. So thank you again for all those who liked, subscribed, and shared. I would appreciate it if you could do the same for this one as well. But more of that later on in the show. So, episode 5, I'm going to talk about something that, you know, I think I want to talk about because I think a lot of people are stunned or shocked at the fact that I'm in this industry making podcasts. A lot of people have been curious to know why I decided to do broadcasting, digital media communications. So, appropriately so, as I'm sure you saw in the title for this episode of today's podcast, why I decided to get into broadcasting. And there's a nice story to this. And I have to be honest with you. As a kid, as a little kid, all I ever wanted to be was a train engineer. Oh God, when I was a kid, I would love trains, subway trains, passenger trains, uh, freight trains, no any type of train that a person could possibly drive and I guess have fun with. But I was a kid. I thought that driving a train was fun, but you know, then I turned 14, I got an actual job, and I realized that it wasn't as fun. But no, as a kid, I wanted to drive trains. That was my goal. I wanted to work for the MTA. I wanted to work for the New Jersey Transit, PATH trains. You can think of it. And obviously, because when you're a kid, you don't know how to accept reality. The reality for me was that I was disabled. I am disabled to this day. I have limited function of both my hands. I have a hand that really just doesn't work. I can't use it at all. My right hand is the only hand I could really, well, I could say I have some normalcy in because that's what I do most of my things with. So, I realized later on in life that I wasn't able to be a train engineer as I would have loved to as a kid. But hey, life happens. You get used to it, you move on, and you develop, desires to be something else. And that's exactly what happened to me. But if I'm being honest with you, there was a good portion of my life in which I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think it stemmed from the fact that I was disabled and I didn't know what career, what profession would have been appropriate for me as someone who's disabled, as someone who constantly relies on assistance from others to do certain physical things. As someone who can use a computer, can talk, obviously, that's why I have a podcast, and who, you know, can think independently and doesn't need others to think and make decisions for him. and it was hard. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. Oh man, my dad would always brag about how he wanted me to be a lawyer, how he wanted me to be the next Perry Mason, and blah 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 blah. And as a kid, you always want to make your parents proud. You always want to do what mom and dad tell you to do. But if I'm being honest with you, I don't think I could do 8 years of law school to be a lawyer. Hell no. I don't have the stamina. Listen, I was in college for 3 weeks. What makes you think that I could do 8 years if I couldn't do 3 weeks? I mean, sure, the 3 weeks were because of one class that, I knew I wasn't going to pass because I struggled with it throughout my entire educational career. So that's why I dropped out. But imagine being a lawyer for me. 8 years of law school? No way. No way, man. That was not for me, and that's not for me. And hey, I'm 22. I'm pretty sure that by the time I'm 30, my dad is going to continue pushing me to become a lawyer. But I always tell him this. Not happening, but thank you, chief. That's always what I tell him. But yeah, and honestly, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, you know, what path I was going to do. Obviously when you enter your first years of high school, they start telling you that you should start thinking about this stuff because they are the last 4 years of your, I don't know how to say it. In Spanish we say tiempos juveniles, times of your youth. Translation. Um, so yeah, even though they kept telling me to think about it, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And quite honestly, I didn't think about it because when I went to high school, the first few years of my high school career, man, I was immature as hell. I started high school at the age of 14, and I still had the mind of a 12-year-old. I'm embarrassed to say this, but this was the fact. So I really didn't think a lot about you know my time after high school, what I was gonna do, whether or not I was gonna go to college. Even though I eventually did for a very brief amount of time before I decided to go to broadcasting school, but that it was a point in my life in which I wasn't sure, and I honestly, if I'm being completely honest with you, I didn't know, or I didn't think that there was actually a profession out there I could do. But this whole thing started when I was 11. You know, I'm a huge Yankee fan. Let me just get this right out of the way. I'm a huge Yankee fan. And when I was 11 years old, I was invited by the Yankees to do a commercial. The commercial was for the All Star game of 2010, which is going to be held in Anaheim at Angel Stadium. And about, I want to say, a week prior, I received an email from a close pupil of mine from the Yankees organization. And this person invited me to a commercial shoot. I was excited. I didn't know, what this was for or anything like that. And selfishly, I thought it was just going to be me. I was telling my dad, on the way there, oh, that would be cool if they had me do a commercial with Derek Jeter or A-Rod or Robinson Cano or any of those popular Yankees from those days. And I was excited. I didn't know that it was going to be for the All-Star game. I thought it was a Yes Network promo more than anything, so I wasn't aware of what was going on. But anyway, we get to Yankee Stadium. You know, my dad fills out all the photo releases and all that. That's you know necessary by law before you have a minor take part in anything that's going to be aired on television, or in this case the jumbotron at Yankee Stadium. So we go in to, I think, one of the most fanciest suites I have ever seen in my life. It was at the time it was called the H&R Block suite level. Today it's the FedEx level. And they brought us into this big conference room, which, if any of you have seen the movie Meet the Robinsons, I don't know if any of you have ever seen this movie, but there's a part in the movie Meet the Robinsons in which Goob, that was the character's name, or Mike Yagubian, I think that was his full name. He goes into this conference room to present an invention that wasn't his to a group of investors. And I don't know if you remember the scene, but it was in the big conference room. Well, this conference room at Yankee Stadium was bigger than that. I kid you not. It was bigger than that. And they brought me in. There were a lot of other kids there. I wasn't the only disabled kid there. There was another disabled kid there as well. His name was Kevin. But there was also a lot of kids from the Bronx community that was there. And that's something that when I look back at it, I'm very, I'm very proud to say that I took part in this commercial because you had kids at this commercial shoot that had never been to Yankee Stadium. Never. And what's beautiful about it was that after the commercial shoot, we all received, I do apologize. Got a text message. I do apologize. Um, but what's beautiful about that was that after this commercial shoot, we all received ticket stubs to that game that night, which ironically enough was with the Houston Astros, who were in the National League at the time. So we all received ticket stubs. We all went to the game, and you're probably wondering who did we shoot this commercial with? We shot this commercial with Nick Swisher and Robinson Cano, and it was all cool. It was cool for me because it was the first time I was ever part of any commercial. I mean, when I was a kid, I did something for Sesame Street, but I have no recollection of that. My parents had the tape, but we have no VCR because there are no more VCRs. But it was just a cool experience for me, and I think that the coolest part was watching the director of this commercial shoot, who eventually in the end became a close friend of mine, and I was just appalled by how he knew exactly where to put the cameras, the lighting. He instructed us very well, and there's a part in this commercial in which, well, first of all, let me give you a rundown of what this commercial was supposed to be. It was supposed to replicate a classroom. Nick Swisher, who was eligible to be an all-star that season because he had a phenomenal year, was the professor. We were supposed to call him Professor Swisher. Excuse me. And the conference room was supposed to be like our classroom. It was kind of like a Richie Rich type of thing. So the conference room was supposed to be our classroom. And there was a part in the shoot in which Nick Swisher comes in and he greets the class. And the way they shot this was they shot Nick Swisher saying, "Hi, class." And then what they did was they had a camera, the main camera, go in front of this conference room, in front of the table where we all were sitting. And Mike, the director, he would replicate the scene in which Swisher would say, "Hello, kids." And they shot us like for 30 minutes saying, "Hello, Professor Swisher." And I will never forget that because I never knew before that day how they shot any commercial. I always thought it shows how, you know, unknowledgeable about these things I was at the time. It just comes to show you, how these things work. We were in that conference room for 2 hours shooting this commercial. Okay? For 2 hours, I sat right next to Robinson Cano, who helped me, cast my All Star Game vote, because this was about voting for the All Star Game. About, grabbing your ballots and, putting them back where where you put the ballots at. And I remember that I was supposed to cast my ballot online. So they brought in this Mac laptop, and because I wasn't able to use it, they had Robinson Cano sit next to me and assist me. So I got to sit next to Robinson Cano for 2 hours, and we got to know each other. Robinson's Dominican, my dad's Dominican, so we got to know each other at some extent. So it was pretty cool. But anyway, back to my point. So after this shoot, Mike and I say hello to him. We got to know each other a little bit, but it wasn't that big of a hey, how's your family, this and that. And it wasn't until later on that summer, I want to say around August, after the All Star game, after all that pop and circumstance was done, in which my dad and I and a friend of ours, we were at Yankee Stadium. We went to go see a game, and it was against the Red Sox. And our seats had been upgraded because we were in a bad area that day. It was sunny. The sun was bothering me like crazy, and we went to go get our seats upgraded. And the guy who used to do my tickets at the time, escorted us to the lower level, the field level, which is where we were sitting the rest of that day. And we run into Mike. I didn't recognize him. He recognized me. He asked me how I was doing and whatnot and whatnot. And ironically enough, he invites us up to the control room at Yankee Stadium. The control room, to be exact, that, operates the Jumbotron, the auxiliary boards, the ribbon boards, etc. So he invites us up. And already, let me say this, already at the time, I was already fascinated by that Jumbotron. What I loved about it at the time were the graphics, the animations, the stuff that they would put up there, the content, etc. And as a kid, I would always try to replicate what I saw. And obviously, I didn't know what Photoshop was. I didn't know what After Effects was. I didn't know what Premiere was. I did everything in such a baby, in such a baby type of way, and that was through Microsoft PowerPoint. Yeah, uh-huh. So, we went up, and that's when my world changed. That's when, for the first time in my life, and I was 11. I didn't know what that was, but there was a feeling, there was a a grab at me that I went in and I see this big room with all these different monitors. Okay, I see different camera angles, graphics, videos that have already been pre-recorded that are on standby, to go on air. And I see this man who, to be completely honest with you, is my mentor. I consider him my friend, and I see this guy sitting in his seat, in the director's seat, with his headset on, his technical director to his right, his intern on the left, and I see him with a empty Dunkin' Donuts cup, you know, eating peanuts, peanuts that they sell at the game. And what I will never forget is how, while this guy's eating peanuts, he's calling cameras. Ready, camera one, take camera one. Ready, three, take three. Ready, CG1, dissolve CG1. And I was like, wow. And I even remember there was a point in which my eyes just widened up at what I saw. And there's a picture of Mike and I in the control room. This was 10 years ago. If I find it, I will post it onto the simulcast of this podcast. But there's a picture in which you see me not even paying attention to the camera, looking up at the multi-view, seeing what he sees, seeing what he's calling next, noticing how punctual he was. There was a point in which it was the third inning, and the third inning break, that segment of the rundown was too long, because at the time there was no commercial break limit. There was no 2 minutes for commercial or stuff like there is now. It used to last 3 minutes, three and a half, sometimes even 4 minutes. That's how long they were. So I remember that there was a half inning break that was too long, and someone, I think it was, their second unit director, who told Mike, listen, this segment or this break is too long. We need to cut something. So they decided to cut the do-ups. For anyone who's not a baseball fan, the do-ups are basically, excuse me, for anyone who's not a baseball fan, the do-ups are basically a list of the batters that are coming up. There are three outs in each inning, so there are three batters that come up to the plate. The do ups basically tell you which batters are coming up. So, they were going to show their do ups. But because the half inning break on the rundown was too long, they had to cut it. He decided to cut the do ups and go straight to, I don't remember what video feature it was. He said, skip the do ups, go to the video feature immediately. Ladies and gentlemen, I was shocked at how fast, when that inning ended, the players were walking off the field. Paul Cartier was playing his organ for 10 seconds like he usually does after every half inning. I was shocked at how quickly they took out the do-ups from the multi-view, put up the video feature that they were going to air, and rolled it. We were there for a good three and a half innings. After that, we went back to our seat. But when we got back to our seats on the field level, I wasn't paying attention to the game. Not at all, y'all. I was watching what was on that scoreboard. I was not able to focus on the game because I was so happy, so shocked, so enamored by what I had seen. It was then that I realized this is what I want to do. I don't want to be a reporter. I don't want to be a radio personality. Even though people tell me I have the voice to do it, that's not what I want to do. That wasn't what I wanted to do at the time. I wanted to direct sporting scoreboard shows. That's still what I want to do. Obviously, I'm realistic and I'm open to whatever opportunity comes my way, but it was then that I realized this is what I want to do. Yeah, I still wanted to drive trains, but I had that alternate option. And as I got older, I realized that's what I wanted to do. I remember my junior year of high school, I had no plans of going to college, to be completely honest with you. I had zero plans of doing college. But, I received a lot of pressure from guidance counselors, social workers, etc. And I said, screw it, let's give it a shot. I stayed an extra year in high school because of lack of academic performance in mathematics. I suck at algebra. I've always sucked at algebra. Algebra is the reason why I dropped out of college. Okay? But enough of that. I'll get to that on another episode. But, as I said, went to college for 3 weeks, dropped out. But before that, I had learned about a technical school that teaches you the ins and out of radio and television production. The basics. An extensive, hardcore program, 3-month program that teaches you these things. Originally, my plan was to go there. But, the guidance counselor got involved. They said no, so I decided to go to BMCC, Borough Manhattan Community College, which was probably the worst mistake I ever did. Because I knew I wasn't for college. I knew that environment wasn't for me. I was not going to excel there. I'm more of a hands-on person. So anyway, I drop out and I go to this technical school. The best decision I've ever made in my life. I spent 3 months learning what I wanted to learn. And next to that, I learned skills that, maybe I won't use down the line, like audio editing. Even though obviously I'm editing this right now. Once I'm done here, I edit this. I put this audio file on top of a video. That's how I get to upload these things onto YouTube. That's how. But anyway, I learned all these skills that, I knew I probably wasn't going to use much, but that I still remember and that I still apply to this day. And to everything I've done, from freelance producing, freelance directing, etc., it has benefited me. I chose broadcasting because I wanted to make an impact on people who watched my show, my content, what I put together. Because from my time visiting that control room at Yankee Stadium in that summer of 2010, and I saw how this man, listen, there was a time in which there was a little girl It was her first time at Yankee Stadium because she had a sign that says "My first Yankee game," and they put that little girl up on the video board. The smile she had on her face, not only because she was at the stadium, but because she was on the big board. The joy I saw in the faces of people who were up on that board having a good time. Some probably their first time there. For others, maybe not their first time there, but still the same joy. I want to do that. That's what I wanted to do. And to some extent, I've done it. In every place that I've gone, in every place that I've directed, produced, edited, people have been satisfied. And I'm not trying to brag. Okay, I'm not bragging at all. But in every place that I've gone, people have been satisfied with what I've done. They tell me I bring their productions to a next level. I'm passionate about what I do. I work hard, and I do realize that, yeah, there are probably people out there that are more talented than me for obvious reasons. But I work hard. And if you want to get into an industry like broadcasting, you have to have the work ethic. You have to have the passion, the drive. I know a lot of people who have chosen this as a career, but they don't have the passion. They don't have the drive, the desire to make an impact, to visually tell a story. They don't have that. That's why I chose broadcasting. Because broadcasting gives me the ability to capture moments and to present them in ways that no one else could possibly imagine. And I love what I do. I really do. Every time I get called for a job, whether it's a big project or a small project, I go 200% every single time. Every single time. When I'm not doing anything, when I'm in between jobs, I still practice my craft. I write rundowns for mock shows. I create graphics. I'm doing this podcast. No, I edit my own content for YouTube. I I do all these different type of things to keep myself fresh. This is why I chose this career. I didn't choose it because of the money. I didn't choose it because of the accolades that one can get when they do a phenomenal job. I didn't do it for that. I did it, and I'm doing it because I love it. I don't see myself doing anything else. Are there days that I get frustrated because I can't find that full-time job that I so desperately want? Of course. But every time I think about it, I also get even more frustrated because I don't know what else I'm passionate about. There's not one other thing I'm passionate about than this industry, than this profession. I thank a lot of people for, where I am. I really do. I really do. I'm very passionate about this. And there are a lot of people I thank. And one of the people I thank is obviously God, but also I thank my friend Mike Bonner. If it wasn't for him, I still wouldn't know what I'd be doing right now. And throughout the years, he's, mentored me, he's given me advice, and, unfortunately, he's no longer with the Yankees organization anymore. He has a great job with the NFL, and I'm happy for him. But I seriously don't know where I would be if it wasn't because of this man's generosity. I mean, Mike could have seen me rolling down the Great Hall at Yankee Stadium, just say hi and move along, not talk to me, not invite me up to the scoreboard. But he did, and the rest is history. I look back at those moments very fondly. I reflect on them. I don't want to say every day, but every time I do a job and they thank me, and you could see in their eyes that they are really grateful for the job you've done, you can't help but to think about how you started, where it all started for you. That's what I've done. If you're looking to get into broadcasting, listen, I know that many people are going to try to say, well, you won't get into broadcasting until you go to college. That's not true, okay? There are a lot of people who have gone to college for different professions, okay? Chris Cuomo, whether you like him or not, I don't give two shits, okay? Chris Cuomo, he went to college to become a lawyer. He graduated, told his father Mario he didn't want to be a lawyer. His father Mario told him, well, you already went to college for this, you can't go back. Chris got a job as a runner for a news station. His time there, during his time there, he learned how to be a journalist. He learned how to write for television, for news. And guess what? To make a long story short, he now has his own show on CNN, a show that millions of people watch. And again, whether you like or hate the guy, you have to admit, this guy is an example of how, yeah, he went to college. No one's denying that. But he didn't go for journalism. He's a lawyer by trade. And I'm not saying that you should take the same path that everyone else does. It's your life. Your success story will be written in its own unique way. If everyone's success story was meant to be written the same way, guess what? I wouldn't be talking about this right now. You want to be a broadcaster? Go for it. If you believe college is the best way for you to achieve that goal, go for it. If you don't, hey, don't get discouraged. Go to a technical school like I did. Start out at your local TV station. Do community television. I did community television. In fact, before I went to this technical school, I took classes at a community TV station. I produced my own show there, and after that is when I went to the technical school I attended. If you're a young person, realize you're still young. You have your entire life ahead of you. Find a mentor. Find someone who will support you. Find someone who will, you know, help you bounce back after a difficult moment. And I'm going to tell you the truth. When I started out, it wasn't easy. A lot of people thought I was crazy. A lot of people thought I was a gimmick. It hurt as hell. But I got over it. I got through it. And guess what? I have a non-profit organization who calls me. I don't have this company. They call me. They call me every 6 months, at least twice to 3 times a year, to do live shows for them. And obviously, because of COVID, this past year, they called me to edit a video piece for them. And I did. And you know what? It's on their YouTube channel, it's on their website. and has gotten many, many views. Again, I'm not trying to brag. I'm just proud. I'm proud of what I've accomplished. And I look forward and I pray to God every night that whatever it is He has in store for me for the future, good or bad, that it continues to help me. Because so far, everything I've accomplished has been thanks to Him. Thank you for listening to episode 5 of this podcast, the second of 2 podcasts to be released. If you like this podcast, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe.